How's it going, everyone? It's Heaven's Mouthpiece, and I'm back with another video. I know it's been a little bit. I feel like I say that every time just because it takes me forever to make any of these videos because I am lazy. But someone suggested on the last video I did about Dracula to do a little deep dive on the character Renfield, and they wish I'd talked about him a little bit more, so I'm making a whole video about him now because they're the only person who's asked me to do anything, so why not do it for them?
I never thought I'd die alone. I laugh the loudest.
Now, I'm going to assume that everyone has seen the Dracula video, and if you haven't, please go back to my channel and watch it. I'm going to assume that you knew what happened in Dracula, and in that video there's a quick summary about what actually happens in the book. So check that out before we get any further. This creepy Renfield guy, his story doesn't actually start with him, it starts with a guy named Dr. Seward. Now, Dr. Seward runs a mental asylum for God knows what reason, because in the 1800s you do whatever the fuck you wanted, I guess. And he keeps like a bunch of prisoners there, including Renfield, and he keeps notes on all of their craziness, and Renfield is one of his favorites. Renfield is one of Seward's favorites for a couple of reasons. So he first describes him as sanguine, which means very optimistic despite a poor situation. I'm not sure how that relates to Sanguine Paradise by Lil Uzi. Good song though, you guys should check that out if you haven't. And he's extremely excitable and is prone to these excitable fits. And he marks that he could be very dangerous if he was unselfish. However, most of the time he is very unselfish. Now, Renfield wouldn't be in the story if he didn't have anything to do with Dracula. And he's kind of a parallel to him in some ways. He's in this mental institution for a reason. Dr. Seward likes him for a reason. Those reasons being some extremely weird kinks that kind of run alongside what Dracula's into, and we're going to talk about them here. So Renfield starts accumulating these flies in the beginning, using like sugar and rations that he gets that he's supposed to be eating, but he's just gathering flies by his window. And Dr. Seward's taking notes of this like, very cool, he's got flies now. Now, he takes the spiders from everywhere in his room, collecting cobwebs, and then he feeds the flies to the spiders. Naturally, because the spiders must be hungry, right? After getting the spiders to feed on the flies, Renfield realizes, oh, he needs to step up his game. He starts summoning sparrows to his window, and he feeds the spiders to the sparrows. And when he realizes he can't get anything better or bigger to eat the sparrows, he requests a cat from Dr. Seward, and Dr. Seward is just about to give this crazy motherfucker a cat, but he decides against it at the last moment, and instead Renfield just eats all of the sparrows, and there's like blood all over the place, feathers everywhere, and Dr. Seward's like, I think he ate those sparrows. This is where we as the readers start to understand what's going on, and Dr. Seward also starts to understand what's going on. He labels him as a Zoophagous patient. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't remember how to say it, considering it's just in a book. But the Zoophagous patient, and he determines that he wants to accumulate life forms and then eat those life forms, which is extremely similar to Dracula just sucking people's blood. Up until this point in the book, Renfield hasn't done anything absolutely crazy yet, and he's pretty timid. However, he does start to have these pretty frequent outbursts. At times, he even tries to stab Seward, and once he stabs him, he starts licking his blood up off the floor, which is kind of like this movie Raw that my friend just told me about. This woman gets in a car crash and then starts licking his blood up off the floor instead of actually helping the man. So you could say that Renfield has he's descended into other forms of media, including this movie Raw. But that's besides the point here. Renfield is having more and more frequent outbursts. He even like runs to this mansion next door and is like beating off bodyguards, punching people in the face, really throwing hands with these dudes. So he had try and go to this mansion where his master is, and come to find out this is one of Dracula's properties that he owns. Because Dracula owns a bunch of properties, a very, very wealthy businessman. Even after this whole stabbing incident, Dr. Seward still keeps him around, doesn't restrain him too much, lets him stay in his old room. And when the whole gang comes together and they're like, we really need to solve some of this Dracula shit before it gets real bad, they decide to talk to Renfield since they realize that they're kind of doing the same thing, sucking up people's blood to get more life and whatnot. So he allows Mina Harker, who is John Harker's girlfriend, or I guess wife at this point, he allows her to meet Renfield, and Renfield is being super polite and nice, and he's absolutely in love with her just like every other person in the book, because every dude ends up being a simp for a woman in this book. He's warned Mina at this point about not staying there overnight because it's dangerous, and he's implying that Dracula is the one who's going to be real dangerous in this situation. But Dracula decides to come that night, and he's talking to Dracula. Somehow Dracula coaxes him into letting him in, and of course he goes and he really fucks up Mina, like sucking blood out of her chest, and like whole different story, doesn't relate to this, but she gets really fucked up by Dracula because of what Renfield does. And now Renfield has like a change of heart a little bit into the situation. He's like, Dracula, bro, I hate you. Why would you do that to Mina? And he tries to fight Dracula, and of course Dracula absolutely murks him, like breaks his back, all of his spine, like his neck is all fucked up, and he's barely alive. They try and save him, but it's not really working. They get a few words out of him, which are important for some reason. They really weren't that important. If you read the book, you know. Renfield was definitely a weird guy, and he served a purpose in the book that wasn't that important in my opinion. Renfield served as a parallel to Dracula to show that Dracula could be human, but I felt like we already knew that Dracula could be human since he blended into society so well already, so I don't know why I included Renfield in this book. Now, I don't think he's actually essential to the plot or anything, like I just said a moment ago. He was fun to read about. He did some really crazy shit during the book. He always kept me on my toes whenever he was around, and he was kind of just an interesting person to hear about. He wasn't the main focus of the story, but he kept me engaged the whole time, so I liked Renfield's inclusion in the book. Renfield had his strange moments that kept me engaged in the book, but he'll forever be that weird side character in the story. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And drop a comment about something that you want me to do a video on in the future. I will probably do it if you ask. Have a good one.
I never